alright. Meet you on the other side. The other side of midnight.
Hi. We're just going to wait for a moment or two, okay? We thought it would be sensible to wait until people in STV and Granada areas have turned over from Wired. Nice poster, isn't it? If you think this is like being in a theatre waiting for people to come back from the toilet, you said it, not us. Okay, everyone sort of switched now. If we're all sitting comfortably, we'll begin. There I was, sitting on the beach, glued to my two-day-late Daily Mail, scanning the latest instalment of Goldman on Lennon, or Goldman in Lennon, and I'm wiped out. My question, did John and Yoko have Paul busted at Tokyo Airport to stop him and Linda staying in the Lennons' favourite hotel suite? Wild story, but did they? Will we ever know? Did we ever find out what Di and Charles said to each other on that bugged Australian telephone line? This is The Other Side of Midnight. If you like, the whole of popular music, indeed the whole of the popular scene, is a symptom of something else, though God knows what. Until modern times, no one would have been in any doubt. It would have been clear that the world is coming to an end. Meanwhile, we're living in a society which makes gods of people like John Lennon, which limits the career of a disc jockey if he doesn't know what acid house music is, and which not only thinks that the definitive life of Brian Epstein has been written, but that it matters. Perhaps the world is coming to an end. Not my sentiments. Bernard Levin in The Times on August 29th. To write so well and know so little. Your world, Mr. Levin, probably did end in 1956, on the other side of midnight. Hi, what a remarkable media event, the Olympics coverage. The first time perhaps in living memory when the commercial channels cover a major sporting event better than Lord Reith. You really don't expect it. But Channel 4, through the night, despite that tacky set, of which more later, succeeds by providing good company. Just as I prefer going to rugby league with my brother-in-law because he knows more about the game than I do. So while the Beeb are stuck with non-stop soul feeds, including the B finals, whatever the hell they are, Elton invites you to watch swimming with Goodyear, rowing with Topolsky, horse jumping with Harvey, and athletics with Ovette. And it does seem to work. And if the ratings reflect it when they come through at the beginning of this week, we're watching broadcasting history. And Mick Luckhurst, he's getting better too. All right, let's hear it for Ben Johnson. Cheating's one thing, posturing is another. So much righteousness oozing out. What drugs are you on, Elton? At least some of us can look forward to an alternative pharmaceutical Olympics, the one where the guy pole vaults out of the stadium. Question, do 127 gin and tonics improve the performance of the IOC? As ex-athlete David Jenkins put it, you were all so in awe just 48 hours ago. Jenkins, yes, Barry, he's a drug pusher, got a truly hard time from the holier-than-thou squad. As one of the Greeks put it, the mob gets out of hand, runs wild, worse than raging fire, while the man who stands apart is called a coward. This is The Other Side of Midnight. For the past 2 weeks, we've been doing extensive research on your behalf following the report on News at 10 that a fireman goes to acid house parties. Obviously, we all need to know who that fireman is. If he works in your neighbourhood, you will need to increase your insurance. Well, at last we can reveal that fireman's identity. This, his latest book. In fact, he hides behind the pseudonym Sam, a shortened version of his real name, Sammy. And I quote from this book, "He twiddled and he tightened, he banged and he clanged, he twisted and he turned, and soon he was satisfied." One of our bosses the other day pointed out that we'd given people a taste of Barcelona, of Cannes, of even Glasgow on the other side of midnight, but we hadn't given people a taste of Manchester, where the programme comes from. So we thought we'd do something about that. Tonight, Sunday night in Manchester, some people are holding a big party. It's just getting going. You're invited on the other side of midnight. Time Out's been pretty kind to the other side of midnight, so it's really a bit tough to moan, but this week's issue, one of its major cover stories says, and I quote, "As the summer of love goes sour and acid house falls into disrepute, not least at the hands of the tabloids, Belgian new beat is emerging as the exciting musical force." I don't mind people saying it's all over. Though why people hating it, banning it and raiding it and getting upset should mean something's over, that's a little tortuous reasoning. I find the latest line on the lips of the major players, quote, "drugs aren't fashionable this week," a useful catch line for the week. But Belgium? I mean, have you been there? Do you know what they did to Africa? Now, just because you didn't invent acid house, Time Out, you don't have to get hot about Belgian boilers. The word is phlegm. Hello. We've had some nice letters this week. One from Sarah Parks of Aylesbury. Quote, your acidic remarks about Belgians were cheap and nasty. Your ignorance was patent. Your racism, that's how they talk in Aylesbury, absurd. Cheap, yes. Nasty, I'd agree. But ignorant? I mean, I've met those people. I do agree, though, about the Walloons. If you have a name like that, how can you expect to be taken seriously? We have a letter from Bob Dickinson of Manchester, which was serious. Quote, last week the centre break contained a soft drinks advert with music based on South African styles. That was followed by an advert for South African Airways. Please note. An air disaster indeed, Mr. Dickinson. But my favourite letter was to this week's NME. It said, enough is enough. This Manchester versus London acid house match has gone too far. Manchester beats London on away goals.
Jellied Eels, Pearly Kings and Queens, Red Buses, Rhyming Slang, EastEnders, the Cray Twins, Soho, an awful lot of money. Arsenal for the title, the South will rise again. The King's Road, Dodgy Geezers, Her Majesty the Queen, the Wag Club, Westworld, the Thames, the Houses of Parliament, the ICF, the media, the Lloyds Building, the Westway, Stroll On, Do Me a Lemon, I Should Cocoa, Robert Elms. Don't come back yet, Tony Wilson. I certainly haven't forgiven you. This is The Other Side of Midnight.
A very good morning from a Hollywood party. This is the Directors Guild building on Sunset. There are a lot of celebrities here. George Maharis, Glenn Ford. You've seen them yet? There you go. I came here to be filmed with some celebrities, but to be quite honest, last night I was in a cheap Chinese restaurant, and at about 10:30 Warren Beatty and his girlfriend, or a girlfriend, walked in. You wonder what she's thinking about being with Warren Beatty. And this morning at breakfast by the pool in a rather cheap hotel where I stay, Bruce Springsteen was at the next table. The fascinating thing, of course, is none of these people recognize me at all. A special report from Los Angeles on valet parking, later on The Other Side of Midnight. The Guild of Continuity Announcers have been conducting an unprecedented attack in recent weeks on this programme by repeatedly talking over the first few words. So that deals with that. We thought we'd give them a little pause. And now put your paws together for the Hitman and Her. I found out this week that people in the South don't know that the programme's on, and they don't watch it at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because they're so brain dead in the South, they don't have any reason to stay up on Saturday nights till 4 in the morning. Whereas up north, we smoke tabs, etc. on The Other Side of Midnight. Yo, it's Christmas. We'd like to thank all our viewers for their wonderful Christmas cards, in particular this one, which came from London. You can tell it came from London. It's addressed to somewhere in Manchester, up north somewhere they address it as, a reference, literary reference to the Vatman Geoffrey Chaucer. It's signed Ecstatic Christmas Matey and comes from the Acid Gits. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Our Christmas card to you, our viewers, comes up now. It's a cut-up, a strip-down of all the major epiphanies and high spots and low moments from 1988's Other Side of Midnight. Happy Christmas. Yo, we're back, unbent, to bring you the stuff no one else will, like the story of the radiation chemical leak somewhere in Northern Europe in late November. How do we know about it? Because everyone was ill, weren't they? Well, ask yourself. You honestly believed it was a virus? Of course. If there had been a leak, the government would have told us. Of course they would. On The Other Side of Midnight. A very good morning. Hope you enjoyed The Hitman last night. What a silly girl she is. For those of us who enjoy McDonald's, baseball and Hollywood movies, it has of course been a great week. Another major step taken in the Americanization of this sceptred isle. Football ID cards. On The Other Side of Midnight, we think that's a fabulous idea. Many people thought ID cards at the turnstiles were happening because Mrs. Thatcher finds Gordon Taylor's brand of aware socialism a little unsettling, but that isn't what it's about. Mrs. T wants this country to be like Ronnie's country, the land of the free. And how can we really go stateside if our gang violence is confined, limited to our sports arenas? Let's get gang wars back on the streets where they belong. Colours, warriors. Let's make life here in Britain just like the movies. Match of the day doesn't really hit it, does it? Let's hit it. What a week. So much talk of freedom of the individual, flying that freedom flag. But I do get confused, personally, all this stuff about the freedom of the individual English cricketer to play cricket in South Africa, which is the way it's reported. I'm an NUJ trade union official in a small part of my life, but sometimes my fellow union members leave me mystified, if not agonized. As far as I can see, no one is stopping anyone doing anything. It is merely the freedom of the individual officials and players in Pakistan, India and the West Indies, to say, I don't want to play with morons who ignore the apartheid boycott. Just because the MCC, or Friends of the Veldt, or whatever they're called, would go bankrupt if they didn't play Pakistan and the West Indies, that's their problem. Although I never see it reported this way, we are talking freedom, the freedom of black cricketers not to have to play with scabs. British sports writers now and again make me sick. Hi there, Pop Pickers. Last week, apparently, we seriously upset someone. A lady rang in after the programme very upset. Apparently, I'd said that, quote, if you wanted to laugh tonight, we suggest you take your clothes off and have a look in the mirror and then go to bed. Now, this lady found that extremely offensive. Oh, yeah? How offensive do you think I find it? I mean, who do you think the jokes are about? What do you call this thing here? I can't even bring myself to actually say the word. I'll just spell it. P-A-U-N-C-H. It's going to make me laugh. I mean, I've heard people say the word Fat Willy. I'd like to think it was to do with sexual performance. I don't think so. Now, I'm the one who's offended. I'm the one who hasn't come to terms with this extra bit. The chins as well, they're going. I believe that. But in the meantime, I've got to laugh, and if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. So watch The Other Side of Midnight and lighten up. Hi, did you see, did you see? In fact, you can now ask a friend, did you see Wilson, asking, did you see, and not get carted away. Ludovic Kennedy, Julia Somerville, Rory Bremner and Anna Rayburn discussing satellite television. After making it painfully clear that all four would profit from being put into an early orbit, at the end Ludo asked, will you be getting a dish? And all with smug smiles said, no. Nor me, said smug Ludo. What was it Murdoch said about snobs? Not the half of it. It's the centenary of the French Revolution. Do you hear the tumbrils, darling? No, I can't hear a thing. Those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it on The Other Side of Midnight. And now the award for... No. We thought we'd actually top this week's show with a little discussion of the Ayatollah Khomeini and his attitude to the satanic verses. We thought about what we wanted to say, and what we'd like to say is that the Ayatollah is a very nice man, a very, very nice man. Islam, fantastic. That's our official position here. Thank you. We'd like to know also at exactly what hour and on what date did the marketing department of Penguin Books realise that things had got a little out of hand. Perhaps it was on The Other Side of Midnight. A big vote of thanks tonight to the supporters of Grimsby Town Football Club. One of the most regrettable aspects of British culture in the 1980s has been the presence of Manchester City fans in the vanguard of our cultural life. More usually noted for their sad expressions and sadder performances on the field, the Kipaxes have nevertheless been responsible for the return of flares in the early 80s, certain aspects of the Baldrick haircut in the mid-80s, and more recently, the Imre banana explosion. Now, I can understand the proximity of City supporters to blow-ups, dolls, etc., but I rejoice that their cultural leadership is at last at an end. I'm sure you saw the Grimsby end last weekend for the Cup, a hillside of inflated mackerel, or haddock, or whatever they were. Fabulous. Gobble, gobble, gobble. And the thing about bananas, folks, you can always slip on them and miss promotion. This is The Other Side of Midnight.
Open up your mind. Come on, take a ride. Meet you on the other side. The other side of midnight.